All right, so anybody could you guys try to go into YouTube to make sure we are online? We are live. Anybody, please, please go to YouTube to make sure we are online. You can see the movie, you can hear the audio. Only then we can start. Check 1 2. This is Tokyo.net Developer Meetup number 29, November 2018. We have a special speaker, Antonio from Spain. So, can you see the video and the audio? Okay. All right, guys. It's time. No, wait. Yeah, please. I just need to tell you. Sorry. All right. So thanks everybody for coming to the Tokyo Developer Meetup number 29, which means next month we're going to have the practice. That's.
Don't trust the meetup over 30, is that what they say?
39.
Don't trust people.
It said 39 up there.
Really?
Before.
Really? Okay. It was 40. So just for the quick note, the next month we have the guest speaker from Australia, and he is presenting Power BI for developer, and he is kind enough to speak 90 minutes to explain what developers should know about Power BI or what you guys can do with Power BI. But for this month, we have 2 speakers, Antonio and me, and Antonio will present the Blazor, not Blazor. I don't know what it stands for. Is it a browser Blazor?
Blazor and browser with an L.
And I'll talk about the BotBuilder version 4, DB5.
Is that, I get the Azure news, and is that what they recently said, like build enterprise class bots using?
Yes, so the question is the enterprise bot using default BotBuilder, yes.
Awesome. I actually copied that. I was going to read that and play around with it.
The reason why we need to DB5 version 4 is because we have version 3, and version 4 is quite different from version 3 to version 4. That's why I need to explain in detail.
Great.
All right. Now I'm handing over to Antonio. And could you unmute your mic?
Present everything. The goal is, well, hello everyone. I hope you all know me. My name is Antonio, and I'm a freelance developer. That is my GitHub. All this presentation and all the samples that I want to show you will be in the GitHub, so don't worry about that. And today's meeting is about Blazor, which is a quite new technology, so I don't think many of you are aware of that. So that I hope this is a good introduction for everyone. Also, please, if you don't understand my English because I might speak too fast, or maybe I'm not native, so maybe if you don't understand me, just please feel free to stop me and I will repeat the game. So let's start with the agenda. Of course, we will introduce Blazor because that's what we are here for. We will also speak how to get started. I will show you a bigger example because the default one is not really big. To end up with some questions and some other resources. So first of all, what is Blazor? So this is the much needed stock image with things on it, and the goal of Blazor is to wipe JavaScript from the surface of the web. But yeah, because everybody hates JavaScript. Because JavaScript is evil and nobody likes it. But that picture is not quite accurate. The truth is that C# is not strong enough, so he's friend was, WebAssembly is the one who will destroy JavaScript. And this is still not quite accurate. The real thing is that JavaScript is our friend also, and we are all collaborating together to destroy, I don't know, whatever you want. Silverlight, Flash, put whatever you want there. So what I'm going to do, so friend was WebAssembly, I will tell you what WebAssembly is. So we have to go back in time to the beginning of time in 1995, where this guy, Brendan H. from Netscape invented JavaScript in 10 days, more or less. He created it in 10 days. So at that time, the web was just that static web pages with no interaction at all. So that was the goal of JavaScript, to introduce some interaction in the web, right? The problem is that 20 years later, the only thing we have is still JavaScript. Of course, we have TypeScript, we have many frameworks, but the only native language for the web is still JavaScript. Of course, we have also ActiveX, we have Silverlight, we have Flash, but they are all just plugins. They are not native languages for the browser. So that's why at this moment, the worldwide consortium think that, okay, we should stop doing that, because all platforms like desktop, like mobile, have several languages, and we need something else, because well, I will talk about that later. So in 2 years later, they published the first draft of Rust, and all the major browsers accepted it because it's a standard. As I told you, it's not a plugin, it's a standard. So all you can execute Rust or the major browser, even for mobile. So what was the problem with JavaScript? Okay, so this is a really brief explanation of what's happening with JavaScript. So we have the JavaScript coming from the HTTP request. Response. Then we pass the JavaScript. We sort of, well, because we introduced so many changes in JavaScript with all the frameworks, but we have to do many optimization. We have to compile it. We have to optimize, and finally we execute it. And still, the execution is still slow. So these guys have worldwide consortiums things. Okay, why don't we just skip all the thing and we just execute it with native language that the browser can understand? So they took another project that was before, which is called ACM.js, which basically what they did is not create a such the assembly language, but they like compile JavaScript into
The screen is not sharing, actually. Let me
sorry
check.
about that.
No worries. Sorry about that. Let me share.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we continue. So as I was telling you, these guys took the idea from ASM.js to get some code which can directly be executed, or the JavaScript engine can actually understand without any kind of compilation or anything. So that's why they come with WebAssembly files. So the WebAssembly are even more smaller than JavaScript, so they are even better to transfer to the web. They are decoded, but that's much faster, and they are compiled, and it still is faster because it's just assembly language. So basically, all the compilation, on the optimization, and also the simple compilation, we can skip it and directly execute it. So so the thing is, like, you might think that the goal of the World Wide Web Consortium was to wipe out totally JavaScript from the web, but that's not quite true. Okay, so what they want is to make some parts from JavaScript faster, so they can execute more critical process, and also that they enable to other languages to be able to directly compile for web. So what we really have is like a WASP module, which is like a black box, and it's still executing in JavaScript, but it's a black box. I mean, the browser engine, as soon as he saw a WASP file, they execute it directly. It don't compile, they don't do anything. And he believes that the black box will do what it has to do. And as I told you, the other objective was to be able to program for the web in other languages. You can set WebAssembly target compilation from C++, Rust, Python, even from JavaScript. You can even compile JavaScript into WASP and execute it in JavaScript, just because you can. And of course, we have from C#. This is the matter we are here. And this is where Blazor comes in. Yes.
So is that the Wasmer its own sandbox? Like can that Wasm interact with the outer DOM?
Yeah, it cannot interact directly. It has to interact through JavaScript. So that's why it collaborates with JavaScript.
Right.
So you might think that Blazor, this is the architecture of Blazor, and this is what it does. Like it gets your C# files, it converts it to DLL and to WASP file, and it is executed in the browser. That is not quite true, but because Blazor at first it was created by Xamarin. So what they did, is to compile the Mono runtime. Mono runtime is an open source implementation of BotBuilder framework. They compile the Mono runtime into WASP, and when they have it there, then it can interpret your DLL. So what you got is you bundle all your DLLs and all the Mono runtime compiling WASP, and the Mono runtime is in charge of executing your DLL. So this is the architecture. Okay, why Mono did it instead of pure .NET framework? Well, I guess they did it first. So there is no answer for that. So again, what is Blazor? So you might be thinking, okay, this is great. I can like play video games in my browser. I can go get my desktop application and put it in the browser, and that is not what Blazor is for, because a browser is a browser. It's not a desktop application. You cannot save files directly from your browser. You cannot. It has some context that the desktop, the browser has some context that the desktop is totally different. So what Blazor is, it's a single-page application framework. So yeah, it's for creating a single-page application. And it's inspired by other frameworks like React and Angular, has a similar syntax to Blazor, and it runs on ASP.NET Core. Maybe you might asking why it runs, if you tell me that it is interpreted by Mono, why it runs in ASP.NET Core? Well, it's just a container, because the Mono contain needs some kind of entry point, some kind of container of the application, and so the ASP.NET Core transfer those Blazor pages into renders at what solid web pages. And still you may ask me, okay, what is the advantage of this, of having another framework, another SPF framework? Because we have lots of new SPF framework right now. Well, first of all, you don't need a different language, because in C# you don't need a different language for the front end and from the back end. So you can share code and everything. And you might be still thinking, okay, we still have Blazor, ASP.NET, MVC pages. Well, this SP framework is it's compiled in client side. So unlike ASP.NET, all the pages are rendered in the client, and they promise to be almost as fast as native speed. And right now the problem is that Blazor is a very experimental framework, so it doesn't have many components on it. Many core services. They have components like Java dependent injection, routine, JavaScript interop, and that's it by now. They promise to introduce more and more things, but yes.
Could something within running in Blazor like reach out to like external microservice, or would that Blazor application have to interact with something else within the browser in order to make it call the microservice?
No, it's everything is in the browser. It's like the browser know how to read. Sorry, the browser know how to execute WASM. So the browser just execute the mono WASM file, and that mono file, the mono runtime execute the DLL that you are not this one. Execute the DLL that you have. So you don't have to do anything in the client or in the server. You don't need to put any .NET framework, nothing. Everything is on the browser.
So what if I need within my DLL to call an external microservice?
Okay, we will see that later. I mean, it's run. It still have all the .NET standard code. Not all of them. If it's not supported, they will throw an exception. But still, you have an HTTP client, so you can call another SNS services. So that's why we are gonna see that in the examples later.
I appreciate the question for next time for the online.
Okay. Let's talk about the most important thing about the framework, because it's inspired in React and Angular, so they have also the same concept of components. Components you can think of that as classes for an object-oriented design language. So what you have with components is just like a UI piece with its own logic and everything embedded on it. It can act by itself. It can be composed in another bigger components. Good thing also, they can even serve directly root from the web from the browser. So they can just the client list component can just display the user root, or it can be embedded on bigger pages. So I would like to speak about the rest of the services, but in the examples will be clear. But the components are the more important. So now that you know what is Blazor, is a SPA framework, let's see how we can get started. So instead of me explaining it, we can just go to the website and see what the first thing you have to see is it's an experimental framework, is unsupported, and it's not for production at this time. And then you have all the things that you need. You need .NET Core is 2.1 SDK, Visual Studio 2017, and an extension file for Visual Studio to install the templates, and also the templates for the .NET console command. So once we have that, we can create a new ASP project, and we can create a Blazor kind of project. And if we do that, we will come exactly to this. Okay, one moment. I will. See, this is the default project that they have. And if you run it, you will see something like this. So this is like a kind of sandbox to start playing with. And this is what we load when we load the application. This is what is this is brought to the browser. So you can see I'm not lying to you. This is the mono. Oh, sorry. The mono runtime compiling WASP, and they have your all DLLs from your application. The problem is that right now it's about 2 megabytes of information. So whenever you start the website, it has to download 2 megabytes, which is a lot, but they promise that they will optimize it. So this is a Blazor website. It has just this example has just 3 tabs. This is a quite simple one, a counter, and something to display data from an external source. So let's start by looking at the code of this page of the index. I don't know how many of you are familiar with ASP.NET, but and from Blazor, but the configuration has the same structure. So if you're familiar with all of those technologies, it will be much easier for you to start. If not, well, you should start also maybe studying that rather than Blazor. It will be more useful for the future. So Let's start with the first page, which is the index. Sorry, my computer is quite slow. And we can see some things here. Okay, we see the hello world, and we see this message. And the first thing that we saw is the page directive at the top, which means that this CSS, this file will render the root road. So see, it's just the root of the website, and we are displaying it. So what is all the rest of the components? So with all those things from in the index? That is what we call a layout. So layout is like a template where we can insert on it some pages. So this is the layout. We have here main layout. We have our sidebar. We have the content, and what makes a layout is inheriting from the Blazor layout component and having a body. And the body is where the template where the actual website will, or the company will go. But you might think, okay, if you want a layout in this page, you should say but we don't have it, and still we see the layout. So that's why we have these files here called bio import, which in what they do is including all these directives in every order in all the components under this folder. So all these three web components will be like this thing, this directive on the top of them, even if we don't include it. What we also see here is a survey prompt. This is not a standard HTML tag, right? Because this is a component. This is the component here, which is like what we see, this component. As I told you before, the components is like the base, like the base of everything. And if we include or a component in our web, in another component, all this logic and all this HTML will be embedded on it. Good thing we also have parameters, which means that we can change this title here. We can change it. So it's it's quite dynamic. If I rerun the server, you will see this component duplicated, and the title will be changed. Sorry. So this is the index. If we go to the counter, we'll see some more things of Blazor. This is what I told you that has the same syntax of Blazor. As you can see here, we have our directives here. Our HTML code here, and then when we start with an @ sign, we can start using C# code. So all of this is C# code. I can even we can do that. It's creating C# code. We can call function, whatever, like we do here. And also we see that this component serves the counter root. If I come here and I change to counter, we should get exactly the counter page. See, the loading is downloading all the DLLs again, so that's why it takes a while. So just you see in the counter root, I go to the counter component. That's at the same as I did when I come here. And the last page is rendering data from outside code. If we go to the fetch data, page, we see still that it has the fetch data, and we see that injection, dependent injection. Everybody is aware of dependent injection. Like, do I need to explain it? Okay. So as it's also based on ASP.NET, we also have some dependence injection, so we can inject services in the pages itself. So what we see here is when the page init we retrieve some data from some external source, and we save it in a local collection, and then we render that collection with a for each loop. Quite easy, right? So this is the basic example. Any questions so far? Everything is clear? Yeah?
No, you are not using JavaScript-like syntax to access the DOM.
No.
You are using C# code to access the DOM.
Actually, you shouldn't access the DOM to change the DOM. That is not the point of WebAssembly or Blazor. What we are doing here is just like if you were rendering the page on the server, but you are doing everything on the client. So what we are doing here is just for each of this collection, we are creating this HTML code, and this will be when this is compiled and this is rendered. This will be like this code will be duplicated. So we don't need to modify the code. If you need to insert some, you need to change some kind of class, you can just use some C# code. So
Right, so, like,
Mhm.
previously, for us to use C# code, we'd have to call stuff from the server. But this allows us to, instead of calling it from the server, we're actually calling it from code in the browser.
No, I mean, this is calling right now. This is an static
Right.
file.
But if you look at the syntax of it, and have you used like ASP.NET, like web forms where you're using the similar syntax, like the at forecast.date, like too short date. For us to get that information out, we run it on the server in order to populate that information.
Not in that case.
Right, exactly. In this case, we're getting that information by running code local to the browser.
Exactly. The browser understands the .NET standard libraries, so it understands this HTTP client, and it can execute in the client itself, in the browser, this request. So there is no need to go. Well, we need to go to this server, of course, but this website itself is not rendered in the server at any point.
So if I want to append a DOM rule, I have to put the logic in the result.
You can use an if code. Just if you need at some point to, for instance, after a validation, if you want to display the validation error, you can just say if there is any error.
If I want to add another row in the table when application is running, when the page is shown to the user and I want to append one more row in the table.
Okay, if that were the case, this is already refreshed. So if I will show you that example later. But if I have a button here, when I click it, a new object is inserted in this collection, this will be re-rendered, and we will see the new node. We don't need to tell to the DOM at any point what to do. We shouldn't actually. We can, but we shouldn't.
Then refresh the whole page or just that element?
It is a virtual DOM, like in React and Angular, so it's just a tab. No. So I will show you the example. In the more example is the more extended sample. We will see how to add new elements to the collection. So everything is clear so far? No, not at all. Sorry. He asks if the client, the browser, the client needs to have .NET framework. No, not the server of the client doesn't need .NET server, the .NET framework. The browser can understand it by itself.
But we need browser to understand Blazor.
Yeah, that's another trick. yeah, we need all the modern Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Opera, even in yourself in your mobile version, they understand WebAssembly. If it doesn't, this will compile into ASM.js. What I told you before is the base of the project what with this was based, and that's pure JavaScript. So it will still be executed. I haven't actually tested. Okay, so we move on. So we are going to, oh, sorry, not this one. We are going for a bigger project. It's just a small website to manage the attendance, the meetup. So this is what it looks like. I did this myself. So you see, you have two tabs, one with the users, where I can delete user, I can add new users down here, and another tab with the meetups itself. So I can select a meetup. I can say, okay, this user will come, go. This is using a local data, an in-memory database. So if I refresh the browser, the data should still be here. But if I stop the server and run it again, the data should not be there. But just because this is a small test example. So in this case, I didn't use so here. I didn't use this kind of template. I used this one, which is like it has not only the client, not only a client part, but also has a server part, and I will show you now. If you create a solution with that template, you will got the client part, the data part, the server part, and the share part. I created the data part by myself, but you don't need to understand that. It's just if you know entity framework, is just a normal data context. Okay. And also the server part is just a standard ASP.NET Core data server. So in my case, I just create some, these classes are just standard. This is not Blazor at all. This is ASP.NET code, .NET Core code. This is just a REST API. So I can call it from my client, which is Blazor. And this is the difference here. Sorry, the share project. The share project, as its name implies, you can share code from the client and from the server. So if you have a front, you don't need any more like duplicate validation in the front end. You don't need duplicate models in the front end. You can have not only models, you can have services. So for instance, I have this service with just trace code. So you can have exactly the same code in the client and in the server, which is great. And well, I have my models here also defined for user, meetup, and everything. So as I was telling you, this is a bit more complicated example, and it will introduce you much more things. So let's start a bit by looking at that. Let's start with the first. I'll close this one. Don't need anymore. The first website is just a list of meetups and the details of the meetup itself. If I go to here and open the index, I will see some more things. First of all, as I told you before, the page directive can serve routes, but it can serve several routes. So if I go to meetup one, you see, so even if I remove that part, all of that will render this web. It doesn't allow default parameters, but you can still have as many directives as you want. So you can serve like that. You will also see that a service is injected, app state, it's a state container. I don't know if you know that pattern, but it's just a way to just have all the state of the application in only one part. So it's injected in the page itself. Then I have two more components that I also did, meetup list and meetup list is this one rendered here, and meetup is this one. And here you can start seeing that, oh no, I changed, sorry. The logic of the website, of the page itself, is in the file, okay? So as soon as I say add functions, I can put all my logic of my page here. I know that you are thinking, okay, I want to have the logic in another file. We also can do that. So we are gonna open the user list. Sorry, the user tab, this one, and here you can see that it has a directive called inherits, and this has an user this class, which is here, and all the logic of that page is here. So you can separate the logic and the UI itself. Well, what can we see here? Okay. First of all, we have some JavaScript interop. We want to, as soon as we open this as soon as we open this page, this field is focused. The problem is we cannot access the DOM directly. We have to access through JavaScript. Sorry. So for that purpose, I create my script here that only just is a small JavaScript function. It doesn't open. Sorry, one moment. Well, it's just a small function that just focuses on an element. Okay. As you see, it's a function that is the scope of the window, and it requires the element of the DOM that I want to focus. Okay. So this JavaScript is also added to the index HTML, which is like the part where we are going, like the container of the whole application. See, it's included here, and this is the directive that will contain my application. Back here in my user page, I want to put the focus on this field, so I create. One moment. So I reference this field from to a local variable, which is this one, which is type element ref, and I can pass this DOM node to the JavaScript by doing that, using the JavaScript runtime object, the instance, and invoking the focus element function with the set filter. So that way we can use JavaScript to do whatever we want with JavaScript. We can invoke external functions, external libraries, but as I told you, it's not meant to modify the DOM. We shouldn't do that. We can focus because we don't have any native function to focus on the node, but we shouldn't modify the DOM. And we can also call .NET functions from JavaScript. I don't have an example of that, but it's in the, you can see in the tutorial here. Sorry. Oh, sorry. In the JavaScript interop part, you can see how is it done. It's really easy also. Okay, what other things do we have here? We have like well, he's gone, but he asked how can we create new nodes. Well, I want to add my user now. We don't need an email, and I see that this is I'm here now, and I can remove also users if I want.
Does it always jump to the top like that when you add it?
Yes, because I think it's added to the end of the list. If I insert it in the top, in the first element, yeah, but I think it jumps to the top. I think as far as I tested, but sadly, I mean, I think That might be a bug that you can report in the GitHub. I don't know. Also, you can see that this component here is the same as this component here. The only different part is this one. Okay, this is an appendix, and this is a so components can also have templated parts. So if I go to my user list component, you will see that I have an element of type render fragment, and it's also binded to an user, and it's called action template because that's the action that I can modify. So in this web I want this button, and in this web I want this selector. So I just define a render fragment type user. It doesn't need to have any type of type user here, and I just render it whenever I want. That's easy. And you see that since this is typed with user, I can pass not a user to the action template. So let's see how can I embed that. For instance, in my user page, I have my user list component, which is binded to all the user lists, and I can specify here the action template. That is the name I wrote before. And here I just render a button, which is the delete button, and I can access the current user here because this is a user list, and as you see, this user I'm calling here can be also accessed here, and that is called context. Yeah, actually, all of this is typed, it's strongly typed. So if I use IntelliSense, I can see all the properties of my user. That's super cool. And it's also calling this function from the I close it, sorry. This function from my code behind, which just go to the state, delete the user from the user collection, and also call the API, delete the user. One thing that we have taken into account is the component lifecycle, because I don't know if that is actually a bug, but at first when I will show you. When I init the website, I'm overriding this method on init assign, and I call the to load user from the state. We'll retrieve the user from the API and will store in this user collection. I don't have it here, but okay, I cannot type now. Perfect. So well, this state here will populate the user collection. This user collection will be populated. The problem is, if we go to the life cycle of the components, because I have here, I told you that you should override this method in order to add some functionality. We have the same method we have duplicated for init or for not assigned. For assigned, if you need to open an assigned method, use the assigned. You can use both actually, and this is like how it's called. Problem is, I imagine that I call the init assign, and then it goes and I render the component, and still the component is rendered, but the collection still hasn't finished. So I need somehow to tell the website to refresh. So that's how, here by calling this function, the state has changed, will trigger a re-render of the component. And this is just an event. And whenever I want to trigger from the state, I want to trigger a re-render, just well, we have, for instance, in the delete user, I invoke that component, I invoke that event, and the component should re-render with refreshing all the, showing the current state of the user. So when I click this one, the component needs to render again, and that might be the thing that is provoking that horrible thing. There are not many more things about core services because we have JavaScript interop, we have routing, and dependent injection layout. So I will show you how to add some functionality really quick. So I will. Is everything? Any questions so far? For instance, I want to implement search. So right now it's not doing anything. So you will see how easy is that. So well, yeah, I can type. So if I go to my user component, I have here my search control, and I need to bind this control because it will also have data binding. We need to bind this control on a specific field of the in the code behind. So it doesn't even need to be a property. It can just be this one as a field. In my user, I bind property. Okay. So whenever I change the text on the field, it will be automatically binded as property in the code behind. And instead of and we are gonna create a collection of filter users. Let's keep it simple. If there are no search sets, it will return the same user in the that is currently in the state. Otherwise, I will return the and once I have this filter user collection, I just have to come to the user component, and instead of using the one in the state, let's use the filter collection, and that should work. Hopefully, it will take some time to run. So, do you have any questions so far? Yes.
So this, you don't have the answer, but does this have to be all purely .NET languages? Because I'm developing a library that interacts with C++. And so I'm wondering if that's going to be possible. If I were somehow able to compile that C++ web assembly.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, of course you can do that. But I don't know if you can call that. You want to call that library from this .NET code? I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if C++ interoperated through .NET through. I don't think you can. But you can compile C++ into WebAssembly, and maybe at some point you can do that.
Leading to the follow-up question, what are the restrictions based on this environment? Like, can I write a file to the system directory?
No, actually, you're supposed to use any library or anything in the .NET Standard 2.0 framework, but as I told you, not all of them make sense, so you cannot write a file. Actually, I tried to, and it's supposed to throw an on the story that the website should crash, but it doesn't. Simply doesn't write anything. So you cannot open a socket, you cannot write a file, you cannot have interoperability with another process in the computer.
What are the options for persistent storage?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that, but oh yeah, I hope it worked. Yeah, fine, work. So you can access the persistent store through JavaScript interoperability. You can code it yourself, or if you go to the, it's supposed to be included at some point in the framework itself, but you can have a NuGet package, and you can download specifically that. So you should, for instance, Signal IR is also not native to this framework, but it's an extension in NuGet, so you can also add it to your application. So I think the community is growing. I actually, for instance, it doesn't have any code to validate. Oh, not this one, sorry. Doesn't have any code to validate for form. So I can, this is required, but still I can put it like empty. But I have something code behind it. It doesn't display any validation. And I was planning to do that for this course to have a validation, but I didn't have time. But you can search on internet and you will find how to do validation natively in Blazor. Finally, we still have time. Do you want me to keep talking? Yeah, it's just, if you want to create a new component, I was planning to add myself, but just need to create, sorry, to add a new razor view, and you can put all the logic there, like another component. Razor view. And you can just delete the code and start writing HTML code and C# code, and then just include this. I put a really bad name, but this component you can include it in inside another component, like any other component, and have its own logic and everything. I was planning to include that in the sorry. I was planning to include all this thing in a component so you can see it, but it's okay because if you go to my GitHub, it's already done, so you can see it directly from there. Sort of like, yeah, it's like partial from Razor. And well, finally, as I told you, you got some NuGet packages. If you want to create your own one, like I wanted to create my validation library, but I don't have time. But if I want to do that, I cannot do it directly from .NET. I have to go, sorry, to the, but you have to use the .NET, yeah, have to use the .NET command, and you will see that since I installed the extension from the .NET command, you can see. Sorry, I forgot to. You can see I also have the projects. You cannot create all these projects here, and you have to create one of type Blazor leaf. Oh, I did it in my wait. Yeah. Yes. Well, if you open this project, you will see that it includes even you can include your own JavaScript, you can include your own code, your own CSS, your static files, and you can just include it inside this project and then reference it. That's it. You can include it, and you can create a NuGet package and use it to the web, whatever you want. So that's it. That's everything that I want to show you, just to have some other. You can find more information, of course, from the official website. You can, from the official website, from the official GitHub, you can report issues there. This is a good, really good article on WebAssembly. I recommend you to look at it to see more what WebAssembly is, more resources about Blazor, and my GitHub, where you can find this presentation and also the code that I just showed you. Any question?
Okay, if I put same URL in the routing, other than if I
It will crash. You cannot do that. One thing, debugging. Oof. Right now, debugging is the worst thing ever because you cannot debug from Visual Studio. You cannot put a breakpoint here and launch the application and expect to stop in there. So you have either to write a console, write line in your code, and it will be logged to the, I know, to the Chrome or to the browser debugging console, or you can. The problem is my computer is so slow, but I will try to show you. You can compile. You can inspect the code from the C# code inside your debugging tools. The problem is right now it doesn't support anything. You cannot see locals. You cannot get into step into a function. So it's basically quite useless, and it's quite hard to set up. So that's as I told you, it's an experimental project. If you ask me, should I invest time studying this? I don't know. There are so many single SPA frameworks every day. There's every new, so I don't know if this one will actually be useful. I can be quite sure that WebAssembly will stay because well, first of all, it's web and everybody's using web, and we need some more standards from web. And they are still improving it, but it seems that it goes in the right direction, and many other languages are quite committed to start using Blazor and as a compilation target. But for Blazor, I don't know what to say because there are so many frameworks around, and you see, it's actually not quite fast. It actually doesn't have many advantages over current frameworks, but who knows? Maybe they quite improve it and they can make it, because it's supposed to be like WebAssembly is supposed to be like between 30 and 100% faster than JavaScript, which in reality is not true. But we are also aimed in the Blazor team also aims in the future to be able to compile your DLL directly to WASP, so you don't need the mono runtime to actually execute them. So it will be even faster. But it's still too soon to say. So that's everything for now. If nobody has any other question, I will hand out the microphone.
All right, thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
All right, so it's 8:30 at this moment. Let's
It's quite easy to set up.
All right, the session will be resumed in 5 minutes.
use Node.js. I know some Node.js quite well. I'm trying to learn React. React. But I don't know. So,
Is reduced C# and English. I do not
it's a bit overrated because I don't know the
anymore.
Sorry, my email there.
If you read many
Yeah, I mean, Google Translate does a pretty good job. But yeah, I prefer.
I am most
Yeah.
writing about the
And moving your file connected with time to be like. Sharp makes what can you program in for?
I never been on Meetup.
Creating web application or
All right, shall we resume?
yeah, okay.
All right, for today, I have 51 slides for 20 minutes. So I changed my plan to explain something very basic about BotBuilder before. But before dive into the demo, let me just briefly explain what it is. Yeah. How many people are familiar with Bot framework from Microsoft? So many. Yeah. Right. The very first thing you need to understand is the terminology, right? Other than that, you get confused. So we have many ways to call the same service at Microsoft. So we call it Bot framework. Sometimes people call it Bot builder, and some people call it Azure Bot services. So the thing is, Azure Bot Service is a bot service provided by Azure, of course, because it said Azure Bot Service, right? But basically, this is exactly equal to Bot Framework. Then the question is, what is a Bot Framework? So when we look at the Azure Bot Service or Bot Framework, this is you, developer. You are the developer writing code to develop bot application, right? So we provide SDK to writing your bot very easy, which is Bot Builder. So Bot Framework provides Bot Builder as SDK for developer to write code. That's one component. And another component, we provide channels So when we talk about bot, which platform you are talking about? It might be Line, it might be Skype, it might be Facebook, it might be Slack, it might be email, right? Then the Microsoft bot framework provides a connector which connects into multiple channels. So you only need to write bot once, and you can connect into a bunch of channels. So you don't have to write bot for Facebook separate from bot for Slack. You can only have one bot application which talking to Facebook and Slack and blah, blah, you know, so many channels. And another thing we are providing is cognitive services, which is not tightly coupled, it's loosely coupled. So you don't have to use it, but in case, for example, when you try to parsing the natural user input, then you can using the LUIS language understanding service. So by having these SDK, connector, and the channels, these are the bot framework or Azure Bot Service. Another new feature from Azure Bot Service is, so before you need to create bot by using Visual Studio with SDK, and you deploy to web app. Then you register your bot to portal, where you can register a bot to connector service to connect into multiple channels. But now you can do everything from Azure portal. You don't have to do it separate anymore. Go to Azure portal, start from the adding resource. You select which bot type you want to write. Actually, there are several types: Web API type, Azure function type. Then all of a sudden, Azure configure everything for you, so you don't have to think about too much about how to configure. Right? That's cool. Then if I keep explaining everything, obviously I don't have time. So today I will show you how BotBuilder v4 work with .NET Core. So BotBuilder, when we say v4, we had v3. I don't know why we don't have v1, v2, but we start from v3 and now it's v4. So v3 was full .NET framework. So you need to have full .NET, meaning the bot should be running on Windows. Now it's .NET standard base, meaning you can write bot for .NET Core as well as full .NET. When you're writing bot with .NET Core, you can run it on Linux as well. But which brings different mechanism to make it work. So let's go into, okay, I challenge Jim. I go for command prompt rather than PowerShell.
Fail.
Yeah, they already. All right, but I do not forget to CD to my desktop. So what I want to do is, first of all, let me just creating the very, very simple raw web API, .NET Core web API, so that I can prove it's just another web API. So I can say .NET new web API -n. What's name we want? Meetup bot, maybe. So even though I name it bot, it's just another web API, right? So this is my web API. So I just need to go into CD to my Meetup bot and open by using the Visual Studio Code. I'm opening by using the Japanese edition. Let me open by what's that local? I hope this opens in English version. It does. All right, so at this moment, this is just another web API. That's why you see controller. Inside the controller, there is a value controller. So at this moment, if I press F5, this is just another web API. We can call it into the address and get this value back, right? But I don't need a controller. So let me delete by controller. Then if I come into startup, so for ASP.NET Core, everything starts from startup. So inside this startup, you see we are using MVC, you are using MVC, but as I said, bot is web API. It doesn't have to be MVC. BotBuilder v3 was MVC based, but BotBuilder v4 is web API based, which meaning we don't need MVC. So let me just delete everything. Goodbye, MVC. All right, then let me just adding one additional snippet. Like app run async and the content response write async. What this does is whenever we receive the request from the client, Web API have the pipeline to checking which requests we're receiving. And after that, we decide what content we are responding back. That could be done by using controller for MVC, and usually MVC returning view. Or if you simply accessing the controller which returning JSON, it only returns JSON string. But in this case, I simply return hello bot, just a string. All right, let's try if this works. So let me just format the document so that it looks better. Yep. 5. Yeah, extra step.
I'll download a lecture.
Right. Server debug. And do I have a configuration? Yep. So it's .NET Core. All right. And start debugging. Come on, I can do it. Let me set breakpoint. So at this moment, this application is running on port 5000 with HTTP. So let me open the browser and 5000 HTTP, and it's already hit the breakpoint. But try again. Breakpoint. So this is a very basic web API. We implement nothing, right? Just receive the message, return the string back. Done. This is not bot. This is just web API. If this is a bot, it's too terrible, right? So now we want to adding a package, which is BotBuilder. So going to terminal and open new terminal. Terminal. Can I see that? Big. Right, so the package I want to add is Microsoft.bot.builder.integration.sp.net core. So the good thing about .NET Bot Builder is everything open source. So you just need to go to GitHub and you have all the source code. So if you're a geek, you just go ahead to see all the details, how it is actually running. So once I'm loading that package, it's also getting bot schema, bot connector, bot builder. This is a main SDK bot builder. And the bot builder integration SP.NET Core. So how this works is bot builder is the one to giving you the capability to write in the bot code. Okay? And the schema is just a metadata. The connector is connecting to bot backend. Then ASP.NET Core integration this is a library to let you call bot from ASP.NET Core. Meaning, if you want to using full.NET MVC, you need adding different package because this is just for ASP.NET Core. All right. Now I have everything I need. So let me start adding my bot code. So let's say my bot. And I need to inherit from ibot, which is maybe I need to do the .NET restore. Wait, .NET restore. Make sure all the component is loaded. Ibot and implement the interface. So when I implement this interface, ibot asked me to implement on-turn async. So every time user connecting to the bot, BotBuilder gives us turn context. The turn is a concept when user talking to the bot and the bot reply back to user, right? That's one turn. If user say hi to the bot and if the bot said hey Ken, that's one turn. If user reply what's up, if bot said I'm good, then it's another turn. So this turn context containing what user said, who is a user, and which channel user coming from. Maybe from Facebook, maybe from Skype. Those kind of information is implemented inside this turn context. And it's also including the connector so that we can reply back by using turn context. So we don't have to create another connector to reply back to the user, but we can simply using this turn context to create a reply and reply back to the user. So let me just delete this one sentence and say await and turn context send what? Send activity async. Why no intersense? Context. What? Yeah. We need async. And I want to say send activity async. Hello. Yeah, because this is activities, right? Alrighty. Now I'm ready, but somebody need calling this class, right? Other than that, this is just class sitting somewhere. So to calling this class, of course, we call from startup. So I coming back to startup, and at the moment, so let me just. At the moment, we simply reply hello bot. So let me just delete this one. Then coming back to the services. So we are using ASP.NET Core middleware to injecting the bot application as service. So whenever ASP.NET Core Web API need bot application, they are using IOC container to creating new instance. And if you're not familiar with middleware, if you're not familiar with IOC container, let me know so that I can give you the session next time. So services, and I want to add bot. So add bot with the extension. So as you can see, this is too small. You may not be able to see, but it said using Microsoft.bot.builder.integration.sp.NET Core. So this integration gives you the capability to integrate ASP.NET Core to BotBuilder. So add bot, and I can specify the type of my bot. Did I say my bot? I said my bot. But yeah, you should get used to Japanese English. And at the end, I said app.use bot framework So you may remember to using the MVC, we do app.use MVC, right? We are giving you the exactly same pattern. If you want to use MVC, app.use MVC. If you want to use bot framework, on the other hand, you can use app.use bot framework. It's easy, right? All right, so I save this one and hit F5 again. Now what? Now we cannot call this from browser because browser is not a bot client, right? We need a client to call in this bot framework service, but I did not hook this service into any other chat client like Skype or Facebook. So Microsoft providing the emulator, which is emulating other client. So from here, click the create with my mouse. Too big. So create new bot configuration. So I click this create new bot configuration, and I can say my bot and endpoint HTTP localhost 5000 API messages. And you may wonder where this API message is coming from. This is coming from the BotBuilder CK. So if you go to GitHub open source page, you see this API/messages is actually hard-coded. If you want to change it, you can change it, but this is by default. Meaning, if you have another API having API/messages endpoint, it's conflict. So you shouldn't have that inside your application. Anyway, so API messages, and I click save and connect. So we are saving this file as a .bot. What is .bot? .bot is actually another file, which is merely .json. We don't call this .json. We call this .bot, but it is JSON file. So let me store this inside my bot application. So if I go to desktop and Meetup bot, and I can save it here. All right. Now it says request HTTP localhost 5000 API messages failed, reason connect refused. Why is that? And let me double check. Is my bot running? There we go. It's stopping here. All right, let me reconnect. All right, so without type anything, this bot say hello. Why? Because this is intelligent. No, I will explain that later. So if I say hi, it reply hello. It's easy, right? So this is how bot works. So this is just another web API, but having bot the capability inside. If I come in back to go to my bot, and if I put the breakpoint here to see what's happening, type hi, and coming back, and time context. So if we look at time context, yeah, this is too big. All right, I assume you guys can see that. So inside time context, we have activity, adapter, time state, and inside activity, we can see channel ID. So this is coming from emulator, yes. And this is coming from user, who is 09E3, blah, blah. So if this is coming from actual Skype, you can get the Skype ID. If this is coming from Facebook, you can get Facebook ID. Then, if you check the recipient, let me just use the debug console instead. Is that easier? And if you check the text, it said hi, yeah, right? And this is a plain text. Sometimes, if the client is rich enough, they may sending us the HTML message rather than plain text. But at this moment, we are using plain text, and it says hi, and the type is message, right? So this type is actually key, the reason why we get the hello back even without typing anything. So let's resume this one, and coming back to the emulator, and let's restart the conversation. So as soon as I restart the conversation, I hit the breakpoint, and this time if I check the type, and where is the type? If I check the context again, and if I see the type, activity, and the type said conversation update. So the great part of BotBuilder is we can get the system message as well. This message happening when user join the conversation, as well as when the bot join the conversation. Why? Because when you connect in the bot, if bot said nothing, you have no idea what you can do, right? But as soon as you join or you let the bot join to the conversation, bot may say, hey, welcome, this is what you can do. That would be cool, right? So we can get so many system message. Another things we can give in is a typing. So if you open the messenger, if you type to the friend, hey, what's up? Then if your friend typing back, you see it's typing message, right? So that you can wait forever. So the bot actually can pretend as if he's typing. So whenever you feel like you may need the user to wait a bit more time because you are calling another web API background, you can give them the typing system message. So we are supporting a bunch of system messages. So that's a bot framework. All right. So if I coming back to the code, if I say if current context dot activity dot type equal to activity types and the conversation update else. We can do like this to handling. If this is a conversation update, we can send different message like welcome message. Otherwise, we receive the message from the user and we can reply back to the user. So this is a very basic concept of the bot framework. BotBuilder. And I have so many slides to explain every detail, but because I don't have time, there is a blog which I'm writing at this moment, not completed yet. So how many of you actually read Japanese? All right, not many. If you do, please go to my Kita blog account, which I will share you later. So there's an article that says Microsoft Bot Framework V4 complete guide. And I keep adding bunch of information, this kind of detailed information. This is not like for beginner. This is very deep dive instruction, how bot actually using, how bot actually working. And I think I may write 30 articles to complete entire series. And once I complete everything, I start translate everything into English. So if you want to read in English, please wait another month, because I may be able to finish it by end of next month or by mid of next month. And the winter vacation, I may have time to translate everything back to English. All right, so I hope you got some basic idea what bot can do. And one last slide I want to share today is this one. So when we think about the bot with the user experience, you don't want to keep receiving the text message, right? For example, if you want to know the flight schedule, if you're asking your bot,
what my flight schedule looks like. You want to get this kind of card if it's rich. If you want to see the movie, obviously bot cannot tell you the story by text. You want to see the movie, right? Then we can give you the movie card. This rich card is a core key component for the user experience. And the great part of the bot framework is once you're writing one card for one channel, it do its best to sending a very similar experience for any other channel. Sometimes Facebook have its feature, which may not be available in Skype, yes, but we're doing our best to try to simulate the best experience for each channel. But sometimes you need to consider which channel you're actually supporting. Right? So this is a card. So next month, fortunately, we have a great speaker speak about Power BI, but I may continue my bot framework, the presentation in January if you want. All right, so that's it for today. But if you have any question at this moment, no? Okay, thank you.
For me, if you do continue it in January, I'd be interested in how you maintain context for conversation for bot.
Right,
So that you're not like repeating yourself and you understand 3 steps down what was said right at the very beginning.
Right, the great question was how I can maintain the conversation, right? Like dialogue or the flow, right?
Yep.
That's part of the SDK. So the bot, by using BotBuilder, you can easily create the dialogue flow. So as a bot, you don't want to have a Q&A bot, but you want to remember what you have said. You want to understand the context. What if I ask you the name, you give your name, and then I ask your age, you give your age. At the moment, you don't want me to forget your name, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the BotBuilder also have the capability to manage the dialogues as well. So we can have the parent dialogue, child dialogue, and grandchild dialogue. So we can manage everything by using the state management system, which you can store on the server side, or you can also store in the Cosmos DB or Azure blob storage. Yeah, so I can giving you the very detail what we can do with the BotBuilder. But when you think about what you need to develop advanced mode, BotBuilder should provide that capability. It's version 4. All right, so that's it for today, and thanks very much for coming, joining the event. Next month, I forgot the date. December 18th, and that's for Power BI. But I really encourage you guys to come in to celebrate end of the year, and I try to prepare some nice Christmas cake. And even though it's Power BI, it is very, 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 very important for the developer to be able to give some extension to what you can do now. Even though one of you guys are very expert for the interop with the RP invoke, you may want to do the Power BI stuff as well. All right, so let me just stop broadcasting because yeah, goodbye YouTube, and let's take a picture together. Could you guys come in front?